Hello and welcome. My name is Errity Green and this is Wise Women Oracle and Tarot. And today I am bringing you a pick a card reading on your triggers and how to heal. This was inspired by another YouTube channel, White Feathers Tarot, so do check her out if you would like to do so. I also want to let you know that if you do like this reading, or invite you rather, that if you find that you like this reading, that you like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new reading pops up. If you want to get to know more about me and my work, how I can support you, personal readings, you can visit erritygreen.com/shop or click the link below. I also invite you to join the communities at my other YouTube channels, Psychic True Crime and Wise Women Talk. You can find those linked below. And last but not least, I have a URL now. You can click on it and sign up for my newsletter. That way we stay in touch in between readings. So without further delay, I will place a picture up of your 3 card piles to choose from. As always, you are choosing from left to right. Okay, so card pile 1, your triggers and how to heal. So I feel like you are someone who is very driven, determined. You might be considered a go-getter, someone who's going to get what they want, who won't take no for an answer, highly focused, highly determined, self-determined. And I feel like you were raised in this way, like in one way or another, you were conditioned to kind of be this person who's strong and perseveres and is resilient and will always follow through and always finish the job and get the job done well. Very focused, very warrior-like. And that's a beautiful thing. That's absolutely a beautiful facet of you. And it's not something to try to eliminate or get rid of. This is you. That's who you are. Celebrate that part of you. And yet, because you're so used to being so self-determined, so focused, so in the zone, so on the way, you might have this defense or coping mechanism around control and needing to control things and feel like you do control things, because if you don't feel like you have control, that you don't feel safe. And so there's something here about efforts to control and then how to heal that. Okay, so we're going to dive a little bit deeper. So in your efforts to control, this can bring about exhaustion. I feel like you might be someone who works yourself to the bone or lights the candle at both ends, so to speak, or does all the things, pushes for all the things, forces all the things, holds everything up, tries to get it all done, tries to do it all well, tries to do it all to the best of their ability, and on and on and on. But as a result, that leaves you feeling exhausted. That leaves you feeling fatigued. It leaves you feeling numb or unsupported and unloved, uncared for. But it's almost saying that if you didn't try and work so hard, you probably wouldn't feel so fatigued and exhausted, and probably wouldn't feel so unsupported. It's because you work so hard that you feel unsupported. So that might be a trigger for you, feeling unsupported, feeling like you're carrying it all, feeling like you're a burden, feeling like you're the only one who has to do it or pays attention. And that is more because you have overburdened yourself and thus feel unsupported. But if you were to release some of those burdens, take off some of those layers, you wouldn't feel so unsupported, because you wouldn't require that same level of support, right? So it's actually about taking off those layers of burdens and responsibilities, things that you've told yourself are yours and your responsibilities, and things that must be done or get done. It's more about letting some of those go as opposed to trying to force getting more support. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't ask for help or ask for support. That's definitely relevant, meaningful, and something that I've talked about in plenty of other readings on this channel. With that said, this particular reading, card pile 1, this time is saying you feel unsupported because you've taken on too much. So instead of trying to seek support where it might not be there or at the level that you actually require, it's a matter of letting some of your burdens go. Okay, giving it over to God, letting things resolve themselves, letting things come undone, letting things go unfinished, letting things be incomplete, letting other people step up, letting other people show up, letting other people do the thing. You know, if you're always doing the thing, people are going to get used to you always doing the thing. It's going to become a habit, and it becomes a habit for everybody. And then nobody even knows to step in. And then it's always you who shines and not the other person, whether it be a partner, friend, neighbor, roommate, child. In order for them to find that inner warrior, right, who you have come to know within yourself and who is an identity and archetype that is very clearly a part of your personality. In order for them to actualize that, they need some room to grow and to become responsible too, which requires you to lean back some. So the more burdens you can take off and the layers of responsibilities you can take off and simply give them over to God, let them be, let them go, the more you're going to find that not only do you feel better, you require less support, and you get the support that you actually need, and other people have the opportunity to rise, to shine, to do the thing, to be the thing. Let's see what else is here. So taking a look at how your efforts to control actually connect, you take it down to the source, right? What is the source of your efforts to control? I do feel like there is some grief there, some anguish, some devastation, some just like that wailing that you find at the bottom of some of our woundings, where it's almost like, yes, you really, really want to control this, but getting in touch with that feeling and sort of following it all the way down and finding that at the root of it, it's devastation that you aren't safe, can't be kept safe, aren't protected, aren't guaranteed safety, aren't guaranteed immunity, don't feel like you're safe, can't feel like you can't get safe, whether it be in the physical world or be as a result of how you felt as a child with caregivers or authority figures who weren't that safekeeping or protective. It's going to be different for each person, but more or less the same in that there's a lack of feeling safe. And so then there's all these efforts to create an illusion of safety through control that ultimately just brings more neurosis as opposed to relief. It might bring temporary relief, but it's more of a coping mechanism than it is a truth. So part of your healing might be a reconciliation / reckoning with facing and accepting that there might not be any safety, and that the only safety you can create is within yourself, and or the reckoning that there is no safety and that all we can do is love ourselves through it, through difficult, challenging, unpredictable, unstable times. All we can do is love ourselves through it. You know, we can't guarantee safety in the physical dimension. We can't guarantee immunity. We can't guarantee invincibility. We can't guarantee that we live forever or long or when we die, and all those things that we all want to control, which of course is at the bottom, the root of any efforts to control up here, even when it comes to like forcing the dishes or rushing through a task or like getting through a task list and all the control and forcing that happens. For you, card pile 1, underneath it all, of course, is that whole fear of danger, threat of safety, risk of a lack of safety, no safety. And so you're trying to create that safety for yourself. So whatever awareness you can bring for yourself around any perceived lack of safety or real experiences of a lack of safety in your younger years, childhood, formative years, in the womb and at birth, just to become aware, just to know, because sometimes it can help sort of grease the wheel and loosen everything so things can start moving and shifting. So becoming aware of those elements and really facing that bottomless pit of grief, of anguish, of agony, that we die, that everything dies, that all things will die, that all things we love will die, we will die, everything will perish eventually. And when we zone out, though, recognizing it's a circle of life, because yes, all those things happen. Yes, we die. Yes, we perish. And yet life goes on and spring always comes and something is born again. We are born again in a number of ways, whether you believe more of the Christian mindset where we're born again into heaven, or if you believe in other mindsets where we're born again as in terms of on earth and reincarnation, however, whatever, but life will go on. Now that is intellectualizing it. Those things, again, that kind of mindset perception can help energy to move, can help us heal. It might not do the whole crux of it. So again, when you go to attempt to control, or you feel like you're exhausted, or you're pushing, or you're forcing, or you feel that strained effort, striving kind of feeling, you want to take that down to the bottom layers and to the root, the core wounding here. Take it straight down to the source of the anguish, the agony of not being able to control, right? Of ultimately not having any control, ultimately not having any say, ultimately not being guaranteed any safety, and ultimately having to face the fear of losing everything, losing it all, losing your own life, and losing your loved ones. That's really what you want to be looking at. Okay, what else is here? So also, I feel like this controlling part of you takes up resonance in a lot of different areas of your life. So we talked about sort of productivity, working, accomplishment, task-oriented, that kind of thing, trying to control things. That could be also trying to control other people. We talked about that, and that there's some grief and agony there. That's what needs to be looked at. But also, there's this energy of controlling, i.e., preventing yourself from experiencing pain by keeping people away, pushing people away, remaining alone and isolated so you don't have to deal with the pain. If you just keep everyone out of arm's reach, at arm's distance, you don't ever have to deal with it. If you keep it at bay, you don't have to deal with it. And yet this is what leads to your loneliness, your depression, your feeling like you don't have everything that you want, that something's missing. You desperately want for love, but you won't allow yourself to have it because you'd rather control it all, keep it all arm's bay, at arm's distance, or out of arm's reach, just out of arm's reach. And like, I keep saying that, but you get it. But you keep everything far away, and then you have this sense of peace or sense of, relief, but you don't actually ultimately have what you want. And that's really what's been pointing at the whole time. It's like, yes, you might have control, but do you have what you actually want? Yes, you have control, but do you have love? Yes, you have control, but do you have love and intimacy? Yes, you have control, but do you have fulfillment? Yes, you have control, but can you be fully present? Yes, you have control, but can you actually enjoy quality time with your children or with yourself or with your partner or with your loved ones or whatever? Yes, you have control, but do you have peace, like actual peace and peace of mind inside of yourself and your heart on all levels? Or is it all just avoidance of your biggest fear? Is your whole life just a giant effort of avoidance, of avoiding the insanely scary potential of losing it all, of everything perishing, of you dying, of everyone you love dying? Because I feel like a lot of your efforts to control is to keep the peace, to make it better, to keep it in check, to keep all the pieces together. And it's, if I just have everything just so that it won't crumble and it won't fall and it won't all fall apart and I won't fall apart and everything will just be put together. There's a fear probably of losing control, a fear of becoming and looking a mess, a fear of being vulnerable, a feeling being vulnerable to predators and becoming prey, a fear to, again, ultimately death, dying, loss, of course, is at the end game here, but it might look different in terms of the flavor and the form and the texture that it takes for each of you individually. But I do feel like there is that fear of a loss of control too. Will I look a mess to everybody? Will people take me seriously? Will they respect me anymore? There might be some pride here too. Do I have to have it all together all the time? I have to have it together, or else what? Or else you'll become like your mother, or else you'll become like your father, or else you'll become like your grandmother. If I'm not 100% in control, calamity will occur, chaos will ensue, everything will be totally insane, so it's like that. It's following that belief system too. If I lost control, then what would happen? And then what would happen? And following it all the way down to see that core belief of, if I lose control, this is what happens. And that's the one thing I'm trying to avoid. I don't want to become that. I don't want to experience that. I don't want to face that. If I don't have it all perfect and all my ducks in a row, then calamity will occur, chaos will ensue, I will become a mess, no one will take me seriously, no one will respect me, I will be unloved, I will be rejected and alone and dying, sick all by myself. Do you see how it goes down that? But you have to capture it and connect it for yourself. So card pile 1, your triggers and your healing, this is all around control, keeping it all together, maintaining pride and pridefulness, presenting a persona of having it all done and having it all done well. It's all about, again, keeping everything just so. And this, of course, affects other people. I don't think that you try to control people directly, but it might be indirect because you're wanting to have things just so, and yet you can't. And there might be so much angst inside of you when you can't. But again, you want to follow that from the superficial all the way down to the bottom. And what is the true agony, the biggest fear that you must face here, because that's actually the core wounding. And also taking a look at where you might have developed this biggest fear of being abandoned, being neglected, not being safeguarded, not being protected. There might be something there in terms of childhood or in utero or something like that, or even sometimes past lives. But ultimately, this control too prevents you from the very love and intimacy and the inner peace and the inner freedom that you seek. So those are the very things that you want. These are the very things that you keep at bay because of your control efforts. So I want to ask though, how to heal. How do we heal? Oh yeah, it's getting into those deeper feelings, facing the fear 100%, being 100% honest with yourself, letting yourself feel the feels of that. And this will happen in layers. Things might reveal themselves in time, over time, whether they be emotions, beliefs, memories, but in time, you'll be able to slowly and surely lift a lot of this control. But you are going to have to give yourself permission and give yourself the green light to do so. Because continuing to make the same choices and attempt to control or overwork or overdo or strive or fix or push or improve, all that stuff is the same energy of the old, okay? So it's letting yourself feel, letting yourself drop your defenses, letting yourself make a mistake, letting yourself let your hair down, letting yourself drop the ball, letting yourself be a mess, letting yourself look like you don't deserve respect, letting yourself shelve the pride, letting yourself be seen a sopping wet mess on the floor, letting yourself, your home be seen in a total chaotic state. It's like letting yourself be in that supremely vulnerable state of being seen and still being willing to allow yourself to discover that you can be loved even when you're a mess, even when you aren't doing things right, even when you aren't doing things perfectly, even when you can't exude or exhibit or demonstrate all the control in the world and keep all the balls, in just and right order. Creating space for you to discover that you can be loved when you're messy, when you're emotional, when you're volatile, when you're a sopping mess on the floor. It's helping yourself see that you don't have to be perfect to be loved, and you don't have to have everything in control, and that facing to that fact and truth of that ultimately we can't control anything, and that we aren't invincible, and that we are here and we are vulnerable. Really contacting your vulnerability is the healing here for you, card pile 1. So if this lands for you, resonates, I encourage you to like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a reading pops up. Love to hear your story in the comments. Do subscribe, join the other communities, Psychic True Crime, Wise Men Talk, both of which are linked below. Want to get to know more about me, my work, personal readings? It's linked below, erritygreen.com/shop. And do sign up for the newsletter. It's right there in the description, very first thing. That way we can stay in touch between readings. Thank you, card pile 1. Okay, card pile 2, your triggers and how to heal. So I feel like your triggers are in your mind, like you create your own demons and things to be scared of, meaning you create your own stress or your own torture or your own problems. So it doesn't mean that things don't happen in life that are hard, right? That things don't happen like that, or that stressful things don't happen. It just means that you can get in your head about it and make it way worse. You can turn molehills into mountains. You can turn mice into monsters. And you can turn lizards into dragons, okay? And your mind can lose sight of the facts and become something far bigger and more dramatic and scary than ever was actually true. So let's see what is here. There's something here about freeing yourself from your own torment, freeing yourself from your own punishment, freeing yourself from your own fears, freeing yourself from your own torment, your own imprisonment, your own punishment. It's letting yourself go from that. But let's see how we do that. It's about finding harmony. We know that. I think that's pretty clear. Let's see what else is here. I sat here with the cards earlier and it all came. And then when I do that though, then it goes and then I have to try to contact it again. So it can be difficult. Give me a moment. So card pile 2, I feel like there is this pattern of struggle. 2, and this might be a long-standing pattern, one that has not just been present and prevalent this lifetime, but many lifetimes, to where you really sometimes can't see the other side. You really can't see that there's another possibility, another way, another potential, greater empowerment. It's almost like for so long it wasn't that way, so you can't even see the potential of it being another way, or being more empowering, or not being so bad, or not being such a challenge, not being such a struggle. It's almost like you've carried some challenges, struggles, strife, whatever it was that happened. It doesn't have to be other lives, if that is a possibility here, but if you don't believe or subscribe to that, it could be from the past. But it's like you carry that into the present, even when it's not here now. And you still carry those same old stories, the same old beliefs, the same old narratives that were actually relevant to a previous time, but have since expired. So it's like maybe you had dramatic losses, devastating losses in past lives or when you were younger. You might still be telling yourself right now that, oh, there's devastating loss and devastating failure and devastating this and devastating. You're not saying that, but you have some kind of narrative or story around that happening now when it's long since expired. And it might even be from the past. It could also be stories like this, like, oh, I have it worse than everybody else. No one really understands me because no one's ever really faced like what I have. And I've been through it. And you might kind of either say things like that, like make deductions like that, but also ruminate on like how bad things were for you and your family specifically or uniquely, how hard it's been for you, all the things that you've had to traverse or navigate. But some of you don't even have even that level of like awareness away from it. Some of you are still like and that's the whole point of it, a lot of times in it, like in the thick of it, even though it's long since transpired and long since expired. And what kind of keeps it alive and feeds this monster is those beliefs and narratives and thoughts about it being so hard, about it being so impossible, about it never working out, about it never being in your favor, about it always being you who experiences the crap end of the stick, you know, about you who had it the hardest, the worst, this and that. Like those kinds of thoughts actually feed this and make it bigger and make it more of a problem. And it's like, okay, at one time, for all of us, we could have said that, you know, and that might even be hard for you to hear, that everybody has been at a time in their lives, whether now or in the past, where they can say that in that moment. Most people, though, are able to, and the reason it's been challenging for you is because you've been through it a lot, though, and even in other lives and things like that. If you subscribe to that, where other people are able to move on and they don't recognize that or own that or adopt that as their story anymore because it's no longer true, where that's been your challenge, that's been your struggle of being able to own a different story, own a different narrative, take on a new or a different identity that isn't based in challenge, struggle, survival, hurt, harm, pain, loss, etc. Okay, like those are part and parcel to the human experience. We come here as humans. That's a part of the deal. It's the primary reason we come here, to experience the other side. If we wanted to experience all joy and daisies, we would stay in the spiritual, where that is the primary vibration. But we're here in the physical to experience duality, the other half, the other side of the coin. And so it's no doubt, and even chosen, to come here and experience that kind of challenge, that kind of difficulty. So it doesn't mean that anything is like especially bad for you or you uniquely. The difference is that you continue to own it. And so then that baggage just keeps coming on and landing and sticking, coming on and landing and sticking, whether over the years or even lifetimes. But it's because of the story that you've owned. A part of your work, and if you need the support to get a shamanic clearing or healing to clear yourself of this kind of narrative, because it could require that level, or at least make it easier, right? It might grease the wheel, as I tend to say, in terms of the healing. You can reach out to me and I can give you who I work with as a shamanic teacher. Her name is Angela Wheat. Do let me know if this is something that would be beneficial for you. It's not going to be necessary for all of you, but for some of you, it might well be, because this could be deep and it could be ancestral, generational, or gone on for lifetimes. But I do feel like for many of you, you've been carrying on to a thread, a story, a narrative, an ownership of, this is my struggle, this is my strife, like this is my life. It's challenge, it's struggle, it's hardship, it's woe, woe is me, like that is my life, that is my reality. And so once you keep saying that, and you keep saying that, and you keep saying that, it continues to be and affirm more of that. And here's the thing, even when life isn't reflecting that at you, you're still telling yourself that, so you're still experiencing it. So you're still experiencing all that pain, woe, worry, all that stuff, the experience of strife and struggle and stress, even when you aren't actually experiencing it, even when it's not physically in your current present moment, your current present reality. You're making it so by the stories you're telling yourself, okay? You want to be freed and unbound by this torment, by this imprisonment, by this belief in your own, we'll say, victimhood. Because here's the thing, being victimized is a part of being on earth. We talked about that. There's no getting around it. We talked a little about this in card pile 1, where we can't really avoid the inevitable, which is facing death and facing harm and facing pain. That's a part of our vulnerability of being human. And the more we can accept that, face that, reconcile with that, build a relationship with that, the more we are available to experience, say, the other sides of life, like joy, harmony, peace, fulfillment, because we're not so focused on avoiding all the things that scare us to death, right? So we talk about that a lot in card pile 1. And for you, card pile 2, again, this is about recognizing we do enter into a dimension where victimization is not only possible, but likely numerous times. And that could be a really hard pill for your soul to swallow. And that might be something you want to look at, is working on swallowing that pill so you can find this beautiful acceptance and then free yourself from this pain. Because you actually, ironically, even though in your defiance of pain and not wanting to experience pain because of all the pain you've already experienced, you continue to choose pain by avoiding it, denying it, and not wanting it to be the case. And so, as I said, we can get victimized on the physical plane, but choosing victimhood is a different experience, meaning we choose to give up, resign, let go. And it's okay to let go, but I mean, like, and all these responses are okay. It depends on where you want to be, right? But if you're here and you have triggers and you want to heal, then you probably want to leave this pattern behind. And if that's the case, then, this is what is relevant for you. So victimhood is where we choose to be a victim moving forward. We create scenarios, or we live in it even in our heads, even when it's not real. We tell ourselves we have it the worst, the hardest. We'll never get out of it. Life will never work out for us. We have no support. It's not going to happen for us. It'll never happen for us. It never turns in our favor. You see what I'm saying? It's a totally different experience. Being victimized is 100% a reality on planet Earth, and nobody likes that. I mean, that's just the God's honest truth. Nobody loves that, we'll say. But being in victimhood for the course of your life ensures a level of disempowerment that you probably don't want either, that doesn't align with what you truly want. When we're disempowered, we can't create and achieve the way that we want to. We can't live or feel the way that we want to. We can't contact love and intimacy and connection the way that we want to. So if it is getting in the way, this is what it is in the way. It's this. It's these storylines and narratives around previous victimizations that have led to an ownership of victimhood, that you just assume that it's going to be hard, worse, bad, or ugly for you. You've brought on and carried this baggage from before and carried it into your present moment. What you're being asked is to focus more on the present moment than the past. Continue to bring yourself back into the present. This is what's going to bring you peace and harmony. Are you living in the mindset of the past and the truth of the past and the belief in narratives from the past or even past lives? Or are you living 100% fully in the present? Again, if you find that this is going to be something that's supremely difficult, if not aversive for you, get the help, get the support. We are in this kind of space. It can be hard to tell fact from feeling, right? Fact from fiction, truth from reality. So you might need some support. Get that support then. That's what's required. That's part of the healing, is having to do the work, to get the help, to do the thing, to make it happen, okay? So learning to get present, what's here, not what's in my head and because what's in our heads is what is relevant to the past, okay? So what is in the past is not what's relevant for you now. So staying present is the first thing. Let me see what else. Oh, also, a lot of you, again, because of your narratives, your beliefs, the way you identify, the beliefs that you carry, some of you are not allowing yourself to enjoy life, to experience life because of the guilt that you have. So again, we got that imprisonment earlier. These stories that you don't deserve it, or shouldn't have it, or you're not good enough, or you're a bad boy, or you're a bad girl, or you shouldn't have done that, or you shouldn't have made that mistake, and you deserve to be punished and punished for a lifetime. And how dare you? And you effed up, and that, this person will never forgive you, and all those kinds of stories. Again, some of this is you committing to misery or suffering or punishment because of a belief in your own lack of being good enough, because of a mistake you perceive that you made. So it's like you are taking the paddle basically to yourself and punishing yourself into eternity for a mistake that you made, or a mistake that you perceive you made. Okay, so some of you, might not be the case for all of you, but some of you are harboring this punishment and this imprisonment and this torment, partly because, probably not wholly because, but at least partly because of a mistake or perceived mistake that you made, so you wouldn't dare give yourself what you know you deserve, but you refuse to give it to yourself because you are bad and you shouldn't have done it and you are wrong and you will be punished, right? So you might not say that consciously, but that's the kind of behavior that you're owning, and that's the kind of vibration that you're in, the story that you're telling yourself, that you're bad and that you're not good, and so you don't get the good stuff in life because you did something really bad, right? So taking a look at that too, it might go back to early childhood for some of you, where you started associating any mistake that you made with being really bad and you don't deserve anything, and it's like that whole shame that we internalize, and then you carry that shame, and that shame also then loves to take on then all the stories of also victimhood and or victimization, and shame then just is this big old, kind of void, gaping hole or whatever of energy that's just like, well, not only there, but we'll take anything as evidence to make it bigger, 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 and then that's your identity. It's not even real, okay? It was based in internalized shame from likely a mistake that was harmless and innocent as a child that your parent maybe spanked you for. You internalize it, and now you've carried it on for your entire life, adding just all this other stuff to the bucket of why you're bad and why you're not good enough and you don't deserve it. And nothing good will ever happen to you. And this is why, because you're bad, right? So some of you, that's going to be relevant as well. And that's recognizing you are holding yourself back from your own joy, for own fulfillment, and the belief that you're bad, not worthy, and not good enough for that. Okay, so, we're talking too about the healing, staying present, recognizing when you're punishing yourself and not letting yourself enjoy, not letting yourself have peace, not letting yourself have happiness, because it's important to release the belief and release the hold that you're bad and not worthy and not good enough, and this is why you can't do it and can't have it, okay? So you won't let yourself play or have fun or enjoy or whatever. Noticing that, choosing to give yourself permission to enjoy, to receive, to experience. And then last but not least, in terms of the mental torment and the mind chatter and the thoughts, the destructive or self-sabotaging kinds of thoughts, focusing on what you want. It's giving you a redirection. It's saying when you tend to focus over here, get really scattered and lost, start giving a lot of food to that shame bubble or whatever. Instead, you're going to focus, okay, what do I want? Oh, okay, I really want to be connected with my son right now. So then you go spend some time with your son. What do I really want? I want to go outside and pull some weeds. So you go outside and pull some weeds. What do I really want? I really want to have some mental catharsis doing some housework. So you go get some catharsis by doing some housework. So instead of feeding this monster, so to speak, you start focusing, giving your mental energy to the things that you want and the things that you want to experience and the things that you want to feel. So you're just taking that same energy you would give over here to the destruction and sabotage over to what you want and what you want to feel more of and experience more of and do more of. So your triggers, card pile 2 and how to heal, are all around this sort of vibe of self-punishment, self-sabotage, mental torment, and imprisonment, not allowing yourself to leave victimhood behind because you might have this internalized belief that you're bad, and it might have to do with internalized shame from early childhood and or other lifetimes. But there's this belief or narrative that continues to carry through, like a through line in your life or a thread that tells you how hard you have it and how hard it's been and that it's specifically hard for you. And the more you can get to that and recognize that and release that, because you might not realize that you're committing to that with every time that you retell that story. Last but not least, you're going to focus on more of what you want instead of what you don't want. So card pile 2, do let me know if this resonates. Share your story in the comments. Like, subscribe, press the bell icon. If you want to get to know more about me, check out erritygreen.com/shop. That's also linked below. It's where you'll find personal readings as well. Do check out the other YouTube channels that I have. Join those communities: Psychic True Crime, Wise Women Talk. Last but not least, there is a link now to sign up for my newsletter so we can stay in touch between readings. So I will see you there. Thank you, card pile 2. All right, card pile 3, your triggers and how to heal. So right off the bat, I'm getting the energy that you're well on your way. You are well on your way of healing. I would say you're relatively mature or experienced or well practiced on the path of healing, such that triggers that might have been wrecking ball in the past are a whisper in the wind, and maybe not that low or that subtle or that nuanced, but it's like where your triggers were once something that could bulldoze you, knock you over, that were really unconscious. I feel like you gained a lot of consciousness and a lot of awareness through self-reflection, through awareness, through honesty about what your triggers are, where they're at, where they're from or rooted from, sourced from, what drives it, what keeps the whole thing going, so on and so forth. I feel like you're well practiced, if not a teacher or a guide or a therapist or a healer or something or someone like that on the path, where it's like you've been there, done that, and you know it well enough. It's not going to be perfect. No one's perfect. We're all actively working, healing, growing for eternity. That's the whole point of this: to heal, to grow, to learn, to expand, to actualize, to become, to achieve. But you're well on that path. And so a lot of triggers that might have touched you in the past don't quite anymore. And or if they do, you're well aware of that. And again, you're well aware of why it's there. You're well aware of what it's sourced from. You're well aware of how it shows up in your life, how it takes form. So again, you're well versed, you're well practiced, you have a great sort of wheelhouse and history, background, and experience in supporting yourself out of triggered spaces. I feel like you have already been through a time, and there might be other times in your life. So this is speaking to right now, but I feel like you've been through a time where you actually recently went through a great self-reflection and self-examination period of really getting clear on your depths, on your psyche, on your weak points, your trigger points, and you developed a great healing awareness, if not a healing modality as a result. You've gained a depth of wisdom and compassion for your suffering and others that you might not have had before. It's almost like you have this awareness of how things work, psychologically speaking, human development speaking, how trauma works in the body, how conditioning works, how energy or emotions get stuck in the body, how they are released. You might have a number of ideas or thoughts on this, but you have personal experience as well to partner with your ideas and your awareness around this, to where there aren't too many things that are going to kind of hook, line, and sink, you. There are very few things that are going to hook you, grab you, and hold you down or hold you hostage to where you're unconscious. I feel like at this point, it's just a matter of continuing to grease the wheel and stay practiced and well-versed in your practice to continue to take this deeper and to become more aware and to kind of understand like kind of the gears and how it all works such that, triggers arise. I do feel like there are triggers for you where it feels like it's almost out of control, but you have the awareness around it to prevent that. But sometimes you almost like want to lose control, and or there might be a part of you that you only take the healing so far and maybe haven't hit the core. Again, still well practiced, still mature on the path, but haven't hit that core yet, because it's very difficult for you to face like the total unleashed beast, or the, rageful, furious, tantruming child within, or the part of you that could just wail in agony or anguish, or the part of you that's furious and murderous. I feel like those core parts that if touched are really inflamed, those still might be there in different pockets and different facets of your life. But I feel like for the most part, it's almost like you have looked at the hair all the way down to the hair follicle and the scalp, but there might be like the very beginning of the hair follicle that hasn't been fully touched, fully excavated, fully explored, and yet that will all happen in its due time, okay? Those things will come up when they are ready, as consciousness expands, as consciousness feels safe, regulated, and supported to do so. I feel like at this time in your life, part of your work, part of your path is developing partnerships and connections so you can continue to do the work. I feel like you've done a lot of work on your own. You've done a lot of work on the path solo. Not that you've been completely solo, you probably had help, but I feel like most of it has been within the context of your own experience. I feel like your next level is going to be in partnership with others, whether that be a romantic connection and partner, a life partner, that kind of thing, whether it be deep communal spaces of really deep, intimate friendships or companions. But there's something there I feel like you're going to be able to hit the deeper roots because you have another hand to hold, you have more safety or the perception of greater safety. There's other 2 feet on the ground. It's kind of like that idea of some people, in most indigenous cultures, not everyone does the plant medicine, okay? They have the person who facilitates, oftentimes a medicine man or medicine woman or medicine keeper, who is sober and administers and then holds the fort for everybody, right? Keeps it grounded while everyone else engages in the plant medicine. And I feel like that's kind of the next level of healing for you, is someone else can kind of hold it down so that you feel safe enough to surrender, to let go, to lose control, to face those deeper aspects of your psyche. All of that said, you are well-versed and well-practiced enough and have found enough of a buffer and insulation with yourself in terms of having built and connected and built a relationship with your another level of personal power, with your inner spirit, inner self, inner soul. You've built a buffer, meaning I think part of this is that you probably don't take your emotions as seriously as you once did, and or that most people do. It's not as volatile and reactive. Again, there's this protective layer that happens because of the space that we create, the space between stimulus and response, where we take a minute to consider, to feel out, to decide, to discover, to uncover, to unearth, as opposed to react. So I feel like you've created enough space in your own experience, but also in your environment and your reality, to be able to respond more appropriately to the situation and work through your triggers. If anything, for you, your healing edge is allowing yourself to feel more in those situations and not get into a space where you're just blocking it off and cutting off the feeling so you can do the right thing, say the right thing, and respond instead of react, right? Because there is a, what is it called? There's a saying for this, but it's like you don't want to be too far in one radical extreme where you're volatile, reactive, totally unconscious, throwing your your junk and garbage all around everyone and everyone else and becoming dangerous, ruthless, and hurting other people, harming other people. But you also don't want to be on the other side where it's like you cut everything off, don't allow yourself to feel, won't even touch it, sever it completely in the name of making something easy, in the name of not facing the discomfort of your emotion, in the name of being able to do the right thing, say the right thing, and appease somebody in an interaction, argument, or relationship. You know what I mean? Just find that middle ground of being able to truly honor your feelings. Make sure you're creating the space to feel your feels, and working through that, processing that to find your deepest truth, to be completely honest with yourself about how you actually feel, even if it's your wounded inner child, but being 100% honest with those feelings, and then presenting yourself or engaging in interaction or conversation with someone else, not severing part of yourself or any of your feelings off beforehand, but instead allowing yourself to feel that, to go there, to feel vulnerable, to feel hurt, to feel heartbreak, telling the person if that's where you're at, and you might need, someone to help hold space for or along with you as you do that together. That's why I spoke to relationship earlier too. So this is a possibility for you, but then engaging in more quote unquote appropriate responses, meaning, again, we're not lashing out and breathing fire on people. We are coming into a situation with a level of maturity, but also allowing ourselves to feel, to go there, and to allow that vulnerability, because that's what opens our heart too, and again, brings more compassion and brings forth more love in all the areas that feel tight and dark within our bodies, within our psyches. Okay, let's see what else is coming here. Yeah, you've really developed and transformed, I feel like, into someone with a great level of personal power, with a great level of awareness, expanded consciousness, and you're able to navigate and work through. And so I feel like at this point, it's like the final few layers. Not that there's ever final. You're going to keep on going. We're all going to keep on going. But I feel like you're going through this transformation of the same triggers that used to get to you before don't, or if they do, they're not as powerful, or if they do, you're able to respond appropriately. And you want to make sure that you're not cutting off or severing any feeling or any part of yourself, vulnerable, tender part of yourself, angry, reactive part of yourself, tantruming inner child part of yourself when you are doing this work. Make sure that your feelings are being honored, your vulnerability is being honored, even your anger and rage and fury are being honored alongside making that appropriate response, i.e., putting that space between stimulus and response. So when the trigger hits, maybe it's not jarring you, or if it is, you're allowing yourself to feel that before you cut it off and try to jump into the next thing, saying the right thing, doing the right thing. Yeah, really come into your fullest, truest power here. Take a look at your final cards. Look at this. It blatantly says healing, reconnecting with your true nature. So I feel like a part of this is recognizing that there's this beauty in recognizing that and owning our humanness, owning the flesh, owning the dark type parts of our psyches, our bodies, and our energy bodies and whatnot, while also recognizing it's not the full whole truth of us. And so I think there's this beautiful honoring and greater identification with your soul self, spiritual self, that sees the human as valid and real, and its experiences as valid and real. And also at the same time recognizes it as not the final truth, not the whole answer, not the full picture. So it's not, you don't take yourself and everything way too seriously. You don't take it all so seriously to where, again, it can lead to lashing out and causing harm and ruining relationships and sabotaging self. It's like you have just enough space or distance, i.e. awareness, to be able to recognize that at the end of the day, this identity will die, and you will be reborn, whether that's in the afterlife or another life or being reincarnated, whatever you believe, whatever your belief system is. And then that human's going to die, and this was ultimately a tool, an instrument for the soul to be able to grow, to actualize, to become, to evolve, to achieve. And then another, if you believe in reincarnation, you'll be taking another human form and experience a whole set of other experiences, meaning you take it seriously enough because you are human and you are here, and that's the whole point of doing this work and getting to know yourself and the psychology of humans and all of that, while recognizing that it's not the whole, full, final truth, nor reflective of your wholeness, and it doesn't have to be taken so seriously to where it is, again, destructive or sabotaging for you. I really feel like you come into a place of that level of priest, priestess, again, guide, teacher. You might have a really well-rounded history, background, experience of work and inner work. I feel like this is something that you're probably actively sharing with other people, or could share either one modality or many modalities, where you can guide people into their own psyches, into the labyrinth of their own psyches, help them retrieve parts of themselves, give voice to parts of themselves, protect and safeguard parts of themselves, give rise to parts of themselves, let go of pains and pasts and things that have happened in the past that hold them back, choose differently, do differently. I really feel like you could be a guide. If you aren't a mentor, coach, guide, healer, teacher, speaker, you could be. You don't have to be. This is something that you could carry for yourself as your own resource, but you are well equipped enough to support other people. Your biggest thing, card pile 3, is about making sure that you allow your own vulnerability, even when it comes to the things that might scare you or turn you off or shut you down, like anger, rage, fury, fiery energy, whatever, and or things that could sabotage connection, because I feel like rejection and or lack of acceptance or non-acceptance could be a trigger for you. So in those cases, allow yourself to feel it, allow yourself to go there, allow yourself to take it all the way, That way you can allow yourself to get closer and closer to those hair follicles that we talked about earlier, taking it to the deepest root, the root of the root, the bud of the bud. That will happen in its own time. You don't have to rush it, force it, make it happen. I believe everything happens in its own time, and we can trust divine intelligence. Sometimes we don't know, sometimes we never know, sometimes we don't have to know. So it is what it is. You are on path. You are healing. You have discovered most of your triggers and where they come from around codependency, lack of approval, fear of acceptance or rejection. Like you've got it down. You know where it comes from. So just a matter of continuing to navigate it. Do so with awareness, with consciousness, with compassion, and ensure that you're not severing parts of yourself or cutting off parts of yourself from feeling the harder, deeper, truer feels. So card pile 3, that is your reading. If this resonates for you, I encourage you to like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new reading pops up. Share your story in the comments. You can check out more about me, my work, personal readings at erritygreen.com/shop. That's linked below. I invite you to join my other YouTube channels. You can subscribe over there, Psychic True Crime, Wise Women Talk. You'll find those links below. Last but not least, sign up for my newsletter. I'd love to stay in touch between readings. Thank you, Card Pile 3.